Welcome back to SeniorFlix, and we're continuing our discussion, our conversation today with Reverend Tony Baker, who's a pastor here at Shepherd Village. So Tony, we ended our previous discussion talking about your time as a police officer in Toronto and your experience there with people of many cultures, and so that sort of equipped you for some future
endeavors.
That's
well, you know, it was. I loved that part of my police work and interacting with the different cultures. I remember I was on different committees. I was on a multicultural committee. I was on the committee that ran the Caravana parade, which is, of course, the people from the islands. At one point, I became the unit commander of our community relations division. Well, I would meet with people from all different cultures in the city. We have Greek town, the Italians, the Chinese town. I would go to meet with all these people in different venues, getting to know all about their backgrounds and what sort of makes them tick. It was a wonderful time. And then when I went to seminary, I went in as a missions major because during my police career, I would take my vacations and go overseas on short-term missions. I went to many, many countries. I started off in Senegal, West Africa. I went to Kenya, Uganda, Zambia, and then Eastern Europe, Romania. I went to Indonesia. All these different places with different cultures. It was wonderful, wonderful. And when I went to seminary, I was so interested in missions, so I went as a missions major, or they called it intercultural. And when I got there, I'm walking around Tyndale, and I'm just amazed that I'm there. I was so thrilled to be there. I was a student. I'd left a job where I was the unit commander. I was one of the big shots, you know, and
right.
whoop-de-doo. And now I'm just a student. It was wonderful. But during that first year at Tyndale, I felt God calling me to minister to people of an Asian culture. And I couldn't figure out why He called me to do that, but it was very clear that I was to be ministering to people from Asia. And I thought, well, Asia, that's obviously Chinese or Cambodian or something like that. And so I left it at that, and I went and I graduated, got hired at Agincourt Pentecostal Church. And the first assignment I got at Agincourt, one of the first assignments was they were planting a new church in the city. And it was to be an outreach to the Filipino community of Toronto.
okay.
And they chose me to run it.
Okay.
So I did some research, found out where all the Filipinos lived, and we started this little church plant down at Danforth and Victoria Park.
Yeah.
We got a few people from Agincourt, and they brought in some friends. We started off with about 30 people, all Filipino. And it was the most wonderful experience. We grew from 30 to 50 to 80 to 100 to 120 to 150 people, all Filipinos. I didn't know that Filipinos were Asian. I didn't realize. Here I was ministering to Asian people.
Yeah.
And what a wonderful culture they were. I got to love, I learned about them. They're so hospitable. And I started to learn their language so I could speak Tagalog, which is their language.
Okay. Yes.
So that was a wonderful time.
Yeah.
And I even took them on a trip to the Philippines on a mission trip.
Yes. Yeah.
But then, after serving there for a while, I felt itchy feet again. I need to move on. They called me back to Agincourt to do some other work, and they hired another pastor to take over from me. I was disappointed to leave, but I knew that had to be. But then at Agincourt, I was behind a desk. I thought, no, this isn't for me. I've got itchy feet. This missions thing is in my mind still. I've got to travel.
Yeah.
And I went to visit Murray Cornelius, who is the head of the missions, overseas missions at Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada. I'm ordained with the Pentecostal Assemblies. And I'm telling Murray, I've got this itchy feet syndrome, you know. And he looked at my giftings and what I could do and what I couldn't do. And he said, you know, we could really use you in Hyderabad, India.
Okay.
So I went home, talked to Margaret about it. He says, just go for 3 months and see what it feels like. And then, you know, then you can come back. So I resigned from Agincourt. We flew out to India on a 3-month assignment and stayed for 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
A church planting ministry.
Yeah.
I was teaching in Bible colleges. I was doing leadership training for the pastors. What a tremendous experience.
Yeah. So what part of India was that? Hyderabad, is that north, south?
It's South India, just north of Chennai.
Yeah.
So it's very hot. Food's very spicy.
Yeah.
And what a culture shock that was for us.
Yeah. So what sort of year was that then?
That would be in 2010. Now we're in a country which is predominantly Hindu.
Yes.
And a lot of Muslims. And the city we were in, Hyderabad, the old city of Hyderabad was 90% Muslim.
Oh, really?
So I'm interacting with a lot of Hindus and Muslims.
Okay.
And wonderful experience.
Yeah.
Getting to know them and how they think. And I would go inside, visit these Hindu temples just to see what they do. And the idol worship, just amazing. They've got 700 million gods,
Yeah.
David.
Yeah.
700 million gods they worship.
Really?
And they just add Jesus as an extra one, you know.
And you know, Tony, I mean, it's amazing how God had equipped you along the way. I mean, you'd been through the experiences you'd been through, so you knew what it was like to be not a Christian, and then miraculously a Christian. So you had a story to tell all of those people. Incredible.
Yeah, it was. It was a wonderful time.
Yeah.
And I taught in the Bible schools there. I also taught in the Bible school in Kathmandu, Nepal. So I would travel there and spend some time there teaching. The Nepalese people are also beautiful people.
Nepal, that's way up in
the Himalayas.
In the Himalayas.
Yeah, Kathmandu is at the foot of the Himalaya mountains.
Right.
And as you fly in, you can actually see Mount Everest.
Yeah. Did you ever go up Everest?
Oh, no.
No, you didn't take that up.
No, I'll leave that to Edmund Hillary. That was his job.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not that. I'm adventurous, but just to a degree.
Yeah. So you were in India then for 5 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we felt the call to move out, and I didn't know where we were going to go. Margaret was so worried about, well, we can't leave. What about the pastors? They rely on us so much.
Yes.
And she loved those pastors.
Yeah.
These Indian pastors. Beautiful people.
Yeah.
Beautiful. But the Lord sent somebody else to replace us.
Yes.
We didn't know about it. It was Bill and Elvira Redwood, who now live here in the manor.
Oh, yes.
They came to replace us.
Okay.
And I saw them in church one Sunday. What are you doing here? We don't know. The Lord sent us.
Really amazing.
So one thing led to another. They left, and we moved to Malaysia, to Kuala Lumpur, where we served 2 years in Malaysia, again ministering to people, mostly teaching in the Bible colleges in Malaysia.
Yeah.
In different
that would
parts.
be quite a different culture from
Malaysia
Hyderabad.
is an Islamic country.
Yes.
It's like Pakistan. It's Islamic.
Yes.
But they were very open to us. As long as we didn't proselytize to Muslims, we were free to conduct our services in buildings and in fact, they've got a mega church right there in Kuala Lumpur, a Christian church.
So what was the language there?
Malay, which is very similar to Indonesian. So I learned that, of course.
Good thing you were good at languages, brother.
Selamat pagi, which is good morning, you know.
Okay.
And, So, I'm very gifted in languages, which is fortunate. I mean, but so that was a wonderful time. So while we were there, we were able to visit there in Singapore and some other countries, and I did some ministry work in Singapore.
Yes.
And other parts of Malaysia.
Yes.
And then also in Thailand.
Yes. And all this time, Margaret is along with you.
She's with me,
Being a great partner for you, Tony.
Terrific support,
Yeah, that's wonderful.
At that time, her mother, who was living here in the lodge, was not doing too well. So Margaret would often come home for a couple of months, spend time with her mother, and then fly back.
Yes.
Which was a bit of a strain for her.
Yes.
But we managed somehow. And then, sadly, of course, her mom died, and then Margaret spent more time overseas with me.
So what sort of year are we at now then? 20?
Well, we're up to 2017 now. 2018, 2017. I came back. We decided that our time was over. I was now turning, what? I'm 70-something then, right? Our time overseas had come to an end, and we thought, well, we're going to semi-retirement. So we came home. I don't like winters. So we would go to the U.S. and Florida for the winter months, 3 months. So I wasn't doing much, and then I'd come back, and then Agincourt Pentecostal Church, which is now one church, the pastor called me, we need your help. We've got a church that is fledgling, it's struggling, and we want you to look after it for a year. So they rehired me as a pastor again for another year for another one of their satellite churches. Another wonderful experience. That was in a very low-income area of West Hill.
Okay.
The people we dealt with were very poor.
Yes.
You know, so
West Hill, that's the east end of Toronto, just for our viewers.
Yeah, the West Hill.
Yes.
Lawrence and Morningside area.
Yes.
So I did that for a year, and then that was the end. I thought, that's it, I'm finished. Well, then I'm living now in Shepherd Manor. Start of COVID, the two pastors here, Pastor Winston Osmond and Pastor Lynn Albrecht, both up and retired at the same time.
Yes.
At the start of COVID, which was 2000 and, what was it, 22? No, 2020. 2020.
Yeah, yeah.
So Ron Matheson, who is the director of spiritual life here, asked me if I would take on the role of interim pastor for 3 months.
Another 3-month assignment.
So another 3 months. So I said, sure, I'll do that. And he said, you'll do this, that, and I says, yeah, okay. He says, we'll talk about salary. I said, I don't want payment. I don't need you to pay me. I'll volunteer. He said, if I don't pay you, I can't control you. Ron, I hope you're watching this. So I said, okay, you pay me. So we came to some agreement. So
that was the start of your 3-month assignment.
Which was like 3 years ago.
That was 3 years ago, okay.
So it's worked out well. And I have been so blessed to be able to work here as the pastor of Shepherd Church in the village.
Yeah.
They did hire somebody else to come and take over as lead pastor, which was John Stewart. Loved working with John. Great guy. And then, but in March of this year, John moved on, so I'm back as the only pastor right now.
Yes.
But I'm thrilled to do it. I'm blessed. I'm blessed beyond measure.
Yeah.
I love to get up and I love to interact with the people.
Yeah.
So I'm fortunate.
And if I might say, Tony, you're such a blessing to us here, you know, because you bring a good message, you're enthusiastic, and your singing and all that is just wonderful. So that's number one.
Yeah, I'm blessed, David.
That's good.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. Well, you know, Tony, I think that when we collectively sort of look back over our lives, it's amazing how God has worked in our lives. And
well, one of my favorite Bible verses is Jeremiah 29:11.
Yes.
For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord.
Yes.
Plans not for harm, but to give you a future and a hope. He had his hand on me from the time I was that little timid boy in England, going through that terrible life as a little child.
Yeah.
He had the plans set for me, and what wonderful plans they were. And I am so blessed.
Incredible.
That he brought me this far.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Tony. And it's been a real privilege again talking to you and being a bit associated with you here. And so we pray for you and your good wife, Margaret, and may God continue to bless you. And you'll probably have one or two more 1 or 2 month assignments that will last for
who knows.
Okay. God bless you, Tony.
Thanks, David.
It's been really good talking to you. Thanks again on behalf of SeniorFlix. Much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Okay.